if I traded it all, if I
Welcome to the show, everyone. And as all of you know, this is all about everybody else on this show. And we're now going live on Facebook. So hi to everybody out there that's listening to us. And if you'll hear how to do that, just go to the Networking Arizona radio show page, and you can see us right there. So I'm going to go in with my first guest, who has been on with me at least for a couple of years now, I think. I have with me now Michael Van Vleck. He is the owner of Denali, Arizona. Welcome back to the show. Today, I love what you do because you really are all about educating people. Please tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so Carol is right. We usually try to cover just some general topics of good information for folks. Denali Real Estate is a Phoenix-based real estate brokerage. We focus primarily on residential real estate. We help investors who are looking to buy or sell, need help with running analytics on properties, and we also have a property management component as well. So for today, we're going to talk about lease agreements. I see lots of different lease agreements that come from different places. Some of them are really good and thorough, and some are awful. And so I find that, at least from a landlord perspective, the best thing that you can do to avoid problems is to put yourself in a position in the beginning to have a good lease agreement that kind of spells out a lot of different things that can avoid those problems later on. And if there are those problems, now you have a legal basis to stand on. Should a problem arise, you maybe have to go through the litigation process or just a regular eviction or demand notices or whatever. So for what it's worth, I've come up with just a handful of things that people usually screw up.
Careful.
That's good tips.
Okay, that's great. Now, to me, I would think that I don't even know where they get these lease agreements, so that might be something that you can tell them, but that they are all, would think that they would be standard and that it would always cover everything that they would need, but you're saying no.
Well, so that's a good point. So if you're a realtor in Arizona, there's a forms that we have access to, general blank forms for lots of different things, and they do have a standard lease agreement in there that is reasonably thorough. So any real estate agent can help with that or get access to. I'm happy to send anybody a copy of that. They can email me, Mike at DenaliArizona.com. I'll send you that lease agreement if you want to use it. It's blank, but at least it gives you a guide of where to start. Now, we've used that as a basis for our lease agreement as well, because I do think it from a foundational perspective, it's very thorough, but over the years I've come to find that it's, in my opinion, and for our use, it's reasonably inadequate or falls short of what I would want to see.
And you have always made sure that you cover and dot all your I's, cross your T's. That's what you're all about.
Well, we try. I mean, the market is always innovating and moving, and there's and some of the things we're going to talk about are relatively new that people may not have. I've seen lease agreements that are just one page, and if that's what gets it done for an owner, that's fine. But in my opinion, an owner is really not covered that well with a one-page lease agreement.
So the first top of the one that you have, number 1 here, says crime-free lease addendum.
Sure. So
however you say that.
Addendum. So
Thank you.
It's a lease addendum, which crime-free lease addendum in Arizona. It's a very basic one-page document. Again, I'm happy to email you so you can see what it is. If you Google that or whatever search engine you like to use, if you look up crime-free lease addendum for Arizona, you'll get an easy, free copy of that. All it does is say the tenants will agree to not conduct any criminal activity whatsoever. It's very important because if you ever have sort of a criminal element or some issue where you need to evict somebody, having that in your lease is actually very material, because if somebody is conducting that activity by signing a crime-free lease addendum, it allows you to terminate the lease based on that breach.
Awesome.
So it's a big deal to have in it. So it's a simple one page. Most leases that I see from individual owners that are doing it on their own, they don't have this. A lot of other property management companies don't either. So we have it incorporated. Every single tenant that we have signs a crime-free lease addendum. So
what about this? You have a pet policy and renter's insurance.
Well, so, pet policy, every owner likes different pets. And that takes pets, some like cats, some don't. We're going to talk in a little bit later about service animals, because that's a whole nother issue.
Wow.
But
I didn't know there was so much that went into this.
Oh, my gosh. So,
Go ahead.
So for pets, I mean, do you want to accept... We've had people that say, will you take turtles? Will you take birds? Will you take, cats, dogs, in varying numbers? It's really up to an owner what kind of policy they want to have, and that's fine. Some owners will charge pet rent, so they'll charge a little bit of money each month for having a pet. I tend to believe just charging a pet deposit that's applicable makes sense. I would encourage any owner to require a tenant with a pet to obtain renter's insurance. If there's some sort of significant damages caused, an owner can file a claim on that renter's insurance if something happens. They just have to be listed on the policy, which should be a requirement. So.
I thought that renter's insurance was a requirement. Forget it whether you've had a pet or not.
No, it's up to the owner of the property or property management company to either require it or not. In some cases, they don't. We generally don't require it. However, this is the other part of this, so I'm glad that you brought it up. It's important in your agreement, your lease agreement, to specify that the tenant is at least encouraged to get it, and that they understand that the owner's policy only covers the dwelling and not their possessions. So as long as you have that in the agreement that spells it out and that they're encouraged to do so, then as an owner you would be covered.
Now this is all about education right now, but your firm, this is what you do with every single one of your clients. You already have all of this.
Of course.
And so when you are working with someone, if you're looking for someone who is a great property management company, Denali, Arizona is the place to go.
Yeah, so the bigger play here is that if you're an owner and you own an investment property, these are a lot of things that are changing in the marketplace, which they do. The service animal that we'll talk about later is one. Medical marijuana is another that we're going to talk about.
All
but
new.
These are all sort of newer things that are coming up. And as an owner, you have to say, I mean, doing these kinds of things is a full-time job. If you have another career and you're busy doing other things, if you're not incorporating these things as things evolve, then you're sort of leaving yourself out to dry when these things happen.
So you can call him, his phone number, and they always answer the phone. The phone number is 480-626-4062. You can check him out. It's DenaliArizona.com. Before we go to a break, tell us another one.
Okay, so smoking policy is kind of a big one. Our rentals do no smoking. I encourage every owner to have a no smoking policy. Ours is significant. We have, if you are caught smoking, then you not only pay to fix the problem, but you also have a penalty of $2,500. It's
Wow.
way steep.
And that means smoking anything.
That's right. So depending on what it is that you do for recreation, in Arizona, as everyone knows, I mean, you can get a medical marijuana card as long as you can fog a mirror, and which is fine, but even if you have a medical marijuana card, it does not permit you to smoke in the house that has a no smoking policy.
I have to ask this, okay? Because I
do not have one of those.
No, but I do want to know if vaping is considered, because anything can happen when you're dealing with what you're mixing or whatever they're doing. Is that considered smoking?
In our case, no, because it's vapor. However, if you're smoking tobacco, that's one thing. Now, in terms of the crime-free lease addendum we talked to earlier, that specifically restricts other items, such as medical marijuana. Now, in our lease, we have something specifically pertaining to medical marijuana saying, even if you have a card, that you understand that it's still, under federal law, a controlled substance.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to talk further. This is so interesting. Maybe you're a property owner and you don't really have it all together like this. You need to have someone like him. It's DenaliArizona.com. You can call them direct. They always answer the phone. Their phone number is 480-626-4062.
If I traded it all,
Welcome back. And please, if you are tuning in at Facebook with us, go to the Facebook page. It's Networking Arizona Radio Show, and check us out right there. So, how long have you been doing this?
man, I don't even know.
A long time. But
You lose track.
Well, the thing is that you have so much experience behind you, and what you want to do is not only obviously that you're here, that you want to tell them about you and what you can do for people and how you do it, which is obviously totally up to snuff, even more so than some of the other companies out there, but really that you want to also teach other people what they need to know.
Yeah, so the big thing is that I'm doing this from my own experience in a lot of cases, because I started doing this with my own rentals. So I bought a place in California, started managing it on my own. I learned a lot of bumps and went through some,
Bruises.
a lot of them. But I think from the perspective of things that I learned is knowing when you're out of your element. So for example, since I moved to Arizona, I don't live in California anymore, but I still own my rentals. I recognize that even though I'm in this profession, I'm still out of my element because I don't live in the city where my property is. So I've hired property managers for my properties outside of Arizona, and so I'm on both sides. I not only manage properties here on behalf of clients and my own, but I have to hire property managers elsewhere. So a lot of the things that I am doing is really based on my experience, what I think is appropriate for an owner. We do have at Denali Real Estate an owner-centric approach. People say that it's a word that people use all the time, and I can prove it in terms of how our management agreement is set up, how we go about doing certain things. So it's not just a word that we use, owner-centric or term or phrase or whatever. It's something that we actually do, and I can, when we talk to owners, I explain our process and how we go about it, and they're like, this is completely different than what I'm currently getting.
Well, that's the reason why you want to give him a call. The phone number, it's 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com. Okay, go ahead.
Well, so a couple really quick things. I'm going to use a real-life example. Air filters. You need to make sure that your tenants are changing their air filters regularly, especially in the summer. They should be doing it at least once a month. Tenants typically will forget to do so. It's not a bad idea as an owner to buy some extras and leave them at the house, but have it in there that they're required to do it, and if not, that they're going to be, responsible for the penalties. So we had one of such call actually that happened today on my way to the studio, where a tenant wasn't doing what they were supposed to, and now they're going to get charged for it. So,
wow. And do they have to, if an air conditioning breaks, or if breaks, would they have to be responsible for that?
Potentially. So,
Wow.
For example, not changing your filter causes airflow restrictions that'll potentially freeze up the unit, cause it to stop working or not working properly. So those are big deals.
Go ahead.
Other things you have to include in your lease. These are more recent items where insurance companies are restricting certain things. So you might want to follow up with your insurance company, but they typically do not allow you as a landlord to permit trampolines. So a lot of families have trampolines. They buy trampolines for their kids.
Do.
They sure do. People will go and buy, especially in the heat of the summer, these swimming pools, above ground pools that they set up in the backyard. Swing sets is another thing. So call your insurance company. Make sure that they don't have those restrictions. If they do, take them out.
Right, absolutely. I mean, so that just makes sense. So a lot of people, I didn't even think about that. Well, we'll get this house without the pool. Oh, well, because it's less money to rent.
Sure.
And then throw in one of ours. They won't know that goes with them because it's portable, right? And this way, and anything can happen. Somebody can get hurt, and they would be liable.
Well, then there's also, in Arizona, there's pool safety requirements.
Oh, that's right.
So if you have a pool, now the owner's subject to those, and they may not have expected. So that's an issue. And in addition to that, typically there's a landscaping change. They either have to move rocks back to accommodate the pool or kill grass. And so when they leave and maybe they take the pool and maybe they don't, either way, you're left with probably a cleanup mess.
Wow. What is this? I want to talk about this home-based business. A lot of people work out of their homes.
They do, and it isn't that we're trying to, hurt entrepreneurs.
Mary Kay is rolling over to her grave.
Well, so there are exclusions, but I think it's important as a landlord to exclude Not that I don't love Mary Kay. I mean, we all do, right? But we need to exclude certain things. So, for example, there are home-based businesses where they have to store a lot of inventory. Like, for example, let's say you're an appliance repair company and you have people coming and dropping off appliances at the property so you can repair them and then coming and picking them up. So we exclude home-based businesses in which customers or clients must come to the house or drop off or pick up or whatever. So that covers a lot of businesses there. And then businesses that have to store large quantities of inventory or hazardous materials or other waste products are completely excluded as well.
They have to come forth and let you know what they're doing.
Sure.
And it's in this lease agreement.
That's right. So,
and if they signed it, they have to follow it.
That's right. So if they don't, then they violated the lease agreement. Then you would serve them a notice, like a 10-day notice, to correct that violation. And if they don't, then you can terminate the lease.
Well, it sounds like when I'm listening to you, if I had property, I just love the way that you really are making sure that house that you are taking care of is kept up to snuff.
Yeah, and I think most of
and
this...
that's what it's all about.
And I think the importance of the lease agreement is communication. It's communicating to the tenant in writing what their responsibilities are. We do have tenants that have home-based businesses, but they've been approved, or,
right.
Having a home-based business where you are on the computer and calling people from the house, that, you have a home office type setup. I mean, obviously, that's the vast majority of home-based businesses. We don't allow people to, which ties into our next point, we don't allow people as a mechanic. So people are bringing their cars to your house where you're working on them in the driveway or in the garage and, trying to make some extra money.
Because it's going to ruin the person who owns the house, their driveways.
Absolutely. Plus, there's a particular liability, right? Let's say you're jacking up a car and somehow it tips over or falls over, somebody gets hurt. Obviously, that's another liability component. So we want to try to mitigate those risks where we can. I mean, that's really what this is all about.
Right. I mean, obviously, when we say home-based business, you're not here to make sure that no one can do work in their homes. It's not about that. It makes
Correct.
sense what you're saying. It depends on what you're doing, and if it is going to be put anybody in danger or ruin the house in any way, that's what you're talking about here.
That's right. So it's really saying that as an owner, you need to get approval. Another one is daycare, right? A lot of people will want to run a daycare from their house. Well, there's restrictions there because to run a daycare, you have to meet certain state requirements typically, especially if you're going to have a certain number of children, you have to have licensing, you have to meet certain requirements. And if that type of business is going to be run from the owner's home, you certainly want to make sure that the tenant has gone through the steps to do it the right way.
Now, again, you can hire him if they do it the right way. The phone number is 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com.
So we are talking about automobile repairs. You can't do that. But it's not just as a home-based business, but also repairs on your own vehicle. In other words, if you want to do and you need to do minor repairs, that's fine. But we don't allow people to rip out their engine and swap out their transmission. Those create a lot of mess. As part of our restriction, it's also you have to have your vehicle properly registered if it's being stored outside on the driveway. If your vehicle leaks any sort of fluids, we don't want it parked in the garage or the driveway. So there are those types of restrictions as well, only because massive oil stains and it's very hard to get rid of, and those stains almost never come out.
Right, they don't. Okay, what about this HOA compliance?
So HOA compliance, very easy. Make sure the tenants agree to comply with any HOA rules that are in the community, and if there are any fines levied because of their neglect, that they pay for it.
Now, I want to get, before we go, because we only have about a minute, service animals.
Okay, so big thing right now in the marketplace is people who have pets are saying they have a service animal, specifically because if you have somebody who has a service animal, as an owner, you are not allowed to discriminate against that person. It's not a pet. A service animal, not a pet. So you cannot charge a pet deposit, or even if somebody has a pit...
I thought mine was a service animal. No.
Somebody has a pit bull, service animal, can't restrict it. So there are those requirements. So it's very important, if you're a landlord, that you do a couple things. You're either familiar with the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, right? So you need to know that. You need to know fair housing laws. You also need to know state and local codes. So you can either know all those things or you can hire Denali Real Estate. So
It's a lot harder than you thought, isn't it?
So here's the thing. So for tenants that have service animals, you need to ask them for a couple of things. They need to have a note from a medical professional saying that they're allowed to have that service animal. So you're okay to ask for that. And they're required to have that pet registered, or licensed with the local county. So whether it's Maricopa or Pinal, and you can require them to do that too.
Well, I'll tell you something. If you thought it was easy, it's not. There's a lot of new laws. There's a lot of new things, and you should call Denali Real Estate. It's 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com.